Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can tell, I'm bored as hell. It's the international break. I'm recording this on Friday. England beat Serbia 2-0 last night. I don't really care. All I care about is my beloved Spurs and getting the Premier League back as quickly as possible. But once again, I'm bringing on some of my favorite Spurs fans to talk about how they feel the season has gone so far. So I'm welcoming to the channel for the first time, Mr. George Nelson. How are you, George?
I'm good. I'm well. As disinterested in international football as you and just about everybody else.
Well, I brought George onto the channel because I bumped into George in the street, and he reminded me of a time many years ago where we were watching a Spurs game together at a pub in Hackney Wick in London.
Yeah.
And then he said, while we were talking on the street, that he watches the channel. And I was like, well, you talk about Spurs in a way that I enjoy talking to. So come on the channel. And George, why don't you tell the audience, you're a photographer. Tell them a bit about your work and where they can find your stuff.
You can find my stuff on an Instagram handle, so George Nelson Photography, plus my website, georgenelsonphotography.com. So most of it centers around the music world, mainly jazz and improv music. But I did publish a book about 14 years back called Come Sunday. It's photographs of Italian football supporters in Little Italy here in London, in Clerkenwell. So there's a church that was built in like 1890 by Italians, where till today, as soon as mass finishes, they hurriedly get rid of the priest and they start watching football matches. So the book is a photo book that covers that during the Euros that Spain beat them 4-0 in the final. Right. So I went twice on a Sunday to cover Italy matches there. So yeah, I've always managed to bring together the kind of visual art and music interest and football. Spurs my team, you know.
Fantastic. Okay, just before we get into the Spurs season so far, once again, guys, just have to tell you a bit about my sponsor, okjersey.com. They sell the best current and very cool retro football shirts from around the world at great prices. So if you're interested, scan the QR code here on the screen and use the code BARN, that's B-A-R in short for Barnaby, in the coupon box for 8% off when you get to checkout. But as George said, he's a big Spurs fan. We're going to talk about the season so far. Before we get into that, George, tell us why you are a Tottenham fan. What got you into our beloved yet difficult to support club?
Good one. So I moved to England in 1987, that time. So it's funny, you know, I meet people who have my heritage, Nigerian, British, or just outright Nigerian. And they're like, why do you support Spurs? What about Kanu?
Yeah.
These days, they now talk about Saka and Eze. And I say, well, your timeline is different from my timeline. When I moved here in 87, the only Nigerian player, John Chidozie, played for Spurs. Just in terms of looking at people who may have had my background, black, players of color, international flavor, Spurs was that team. In terms of aesthetics, the Ardiles, Hoddle, Clive Allen team of 87, we're probably the only English team that played that brand of football. Arsenal were the kind of archetypal 1-0 to the Arsenal team at that point. So I was looking for a London team. I just gravitated towards Spurs. It's also something to do with the visual. The camera, you'll know, from the old White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
So high up, the way it shot it down, goals just look nicer. think back to like Naeem's volley against Liverpool.
Yes.
That goal would not look as good flat.
But are you sure that the goals look nice, or was it not that we were scoring nicer goals?
No, because I'll give you a great example of this. Lamella's first Rabona doesn't look so good because the camera is low down. You can't even see what he does. Had that been in the late 80s, early 90s, it would have been the sexiest goal you've ever seen in your life. Like to the naked eye, like really the one against Arsenal. You'd have spotted it immediately.
Really,
so there's something about just the look of Spurs' stadium there. As a young person, they're the sort of things that draw you in. It just looked more interesting.
Do you remember? That's really fascinating, and I'm very happy to go down this rabbit hole. Do you remember when we first got in the Champions League? Obviously, we beat Man City away to get their Crouch with the winner.
Yep.
And then the next season, in the first home Champions League game, that is when they changed the camera angle.
That's
the
when
first
they changed
home
up.
Champions League game.
Young Boys, second leg, the one that Crouchy did a bit of damage. Yeah, I remember. I know, I didn't like it. I never liked it. And every so often, they do one-offs that way. Maybe there was a issue in the gantry and It'd just be really jarring to see it done that way. I like that panoramic high up view, you know.
Let me then start a little contest between you and I, and the people at home can get involved in the comments as well. Favorite goal as seen from that high original Spurs angle. I'm going to start you with FC Porto Cup Winners' Cup 91-92 season. Gary Lineker.
I love that goal. Pass. We were wearing a yellow kit at home for some reason.
Yeah.
And then there was a beautiful
maybe even the best yellow kit ever, with the little weird kind of arrowy checks on the side, the Umbro yellow. Maybe actually maybe one of the only yellow kits that comes close is the current yellow Nike Air 90 kit, which I quite like, I have to say.
I agree. But that performance against Porto was amazing. I think Lineker got 2, didn't he, in that match? And one of them being that goal of the season.
I think Gordon Jury may have scored, or he definitely got one of the assists.
That Lineker Jury partnership, man, that is an underrated front 2 in Spurs history.
I would love to hear more. So for those of you who are too young to hear this, it's worth looking up some of these goals, and also Gordon Jury. I'd love to hear more about why Gordon Jury came to Spurs from Chelsea when he was still relatively in his peak. I mean, Chelsea obviously weren't the club that they are now at the time. You know, they had Ford Sierras around their pitch at the old Stamford Bridge, but you know, they were beating Spurs at the time. You know, relatively recent.
This is the thing I explain to sort of younger Spurs fans who think that the Chelsea curse is the Jose Mourinho era thing up until now. I went, no. That curse goes back to the late 80s. When we first arrived here, Chelsea were relegated that season. And then because I don't know if you remember, the situation then is if you were like third bottom in the league, you played whoever finished third top in the old second division.
Really?
Playoff.
That's what they do in Holland.
Yeah, and then the loser gets relegated.
What
or
year did that stop then? Because I'm too old. I'm too young for that. Just, I guess.
Well, 87-88 season is the season I'm referring to, and Chelsea were relegated because Middlesbrough took them out. Wow. But as soon as they came back up, service resumed, just beating Spurs home and away for the best part of decades, and it started then. They sold us Gordon Jury because I'm trying to remember, they had Kerry Dixon, Gordon Jury, and a guy called Kevin Wilson, 3 strikers. So I think there was a bit of a funny thing of, you know, 4-4-2 was the go-to then. No one was trying to find innovative solutions to that problem. So they just sold us Gordon Jury. You know?
So my cousins are all Chelsea fans, unfortunately. And I went with my stepdad and my cousins to Stamford Bridge to see, I think it was Spurs. I'm pretty sure it was Spurs Chelsea. If not, it was Chelsea somebody. And it was the game where Vinnie Jones got the fastest ever yellow card. It was literally like kickoff, and he just plowed through the middle of someone after about 3 or 4 seconds, straight yellow. So that's one of my formative moments. Just to go back to your talking about your reasons for talking Spurs, and John, is it John Chidozie you said?
Yeah.
I vaguely remember him by name, but don't remember him. So what years did he play for Spurs?
So he would have played for Spurs a couple of years before I started supporting him, the very first year that I supported. So that's 87-88 season.
Wow. Okay.
Venables' his first proper season. Yeah. That would have been his last season at Spurs. He was the hook, because unlike Saka and Eze and Solanke and Udogie, he was a Nigerian who actually played for Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically my first recollection, and people who watch the channel will have heard me say this, my first recollection of properly watching and supporting Spurs was the 87 Cup final against Coventry. But then I think there was like a little gap between, you know, my kind of understanding of that being the team I wanted to win and then properly getting into it, which for me was the first kind of goals. Do you remember the VHS tapes, Goals Galore?
Yeah. I
had I think what will have been the 88, 89 Goals Galore, or whatever was I think Gascoigne's first year was 88. So I think it was the first Gascoigne year. And that's when I became obsessed with Gascoigne. So I had 88, 89 goals and saves galore, as well as the Tottenham Hotspur kind of season review of those seasons. And then I was just trying to recreate every goal. And me and my friend Ben, who probably won't be listening to this, but I'll put him onto it. When we met at university in 1999, and we worked out quickly that we both supported Spurs, we bizarrely both still remembered the commentary for a goal that Chris Waddle scored in that season, and it was like Not bad for a man who woke up this morning with a temperature of 103 and at 7:30 had to call the doctor, but pronounced himself fit to play. And Tottenham are delighted that he did. And that was a Chris Waddle goal he scored. And we bizarrely just met each other in Greenwich University and were like, we both spouted out this bit of commentary from 1988.
Wow,
at the same time.
That puts people's kind of schoolboy zone commentary recollection into perspective. That's very niche.
Yeah.
But Chris Waddle, that season, if that's the season I have in mind, he was just out of his mind good.
The season where he scored at least 2 goals from the byline.
Yeah,
yeah.
He was just ridiculous. One of them against Southampton, if I remember. Like, he was ridiculous. I loved him that much that when he left to Marseille were clearly my second team and were borderline my first team. I think when they lost to Red Star Belgrade in that European Cup final, I was more upset than when Spurs lost some big matches in that period. That's how much I love Chrissy Waddle.
Presumably no way of you watching any Marseille footage at that point either, though, other than that European Cup final, probably.
Eurosport. My parents had Eurosport, and I bothered to sort of check out all these. I remember like Jean-Pierre Papin scoring volley after volley after volley.
What a player. What a player. Yeah, Marseille back in those days, sponsored by Panasonic, I believe, on the front of their shirt. Yep. Beautiful, beautiful white shirts. But of course, also a huge surprise they lost to Red Star Belgrade, not because they were favourites, but also because Bernard Tapie, their chairman, had basically match fixed their entire few seasons around then, right?
Yeah, around about that time. And the thing with Red Star is that Red Star team were one of the nicest teams to watch. But for whatever reason, their manager decided for that final, we're going to be the ultimate spoilers. We're not going to...
He handballed
it. He properly anged it. Like, they were humiliating everybody up until the final. Final, they just locked it down. And they won. They won on penalties. Yeah, sad thing.
Yeah, well, this has inadvertently turned into a Tottenham history lesson, but I love it. I don't know about you guys at home, but I probably love kind of bumping into or speaking to people about Spurs history that comes before the Premier League, because obviously there's a whole, and listen, no shade on people who are younger and really only think that football started with the Premier League, but it really, really didn't. And I have to say, I feel like the kind of invisible washing of those people who scored goals or who played before the Premier League is an absolute like disgrace and ridiculous, to be honest. Ridiculous.
I agree, but I'm gonna circle back to the answer to the question you asked about the high camera favorite goal.
Great.
So the couple that come to mind, that Naeem one that I mentioned, but the problem with that
Liverpool
is there are no Spurs supporters behind the goal, and I don't like those goals. I like a reaction.
Because we were rebuilding. Was that the north side, the north end at that point in the North Bank?
That's right. And then, so I'm going to go for this one. This is the ultimate kind of aesthetic one because it's got all the ingredients. It's got the angle, it's got the rain, and it goes in off woodwork.
Okay.
Steve Carr against
Man United.
Man United. That's the one. That's the one.
Absolute banger. I wouldn't mind adding in then Darren Anderton Leeds.
Ooh, in the game that Ginola also scored a nice one. But
Ginola scored an absolute banger, but Anderton just took fly from about, and that's me bringing in my like 1980s commentary as well. It just came from nowhere. But basically just took a shot from 35 yards.
Yeah.
And Nigel Martin, one of the best keepers in the land, got nowhere near it. And I think it was certainly under the lights. It might have been a little bit wet that night as well. And I think it was a cup game.
It was a cup game. Yeah. 2-0.
Yeah. Guys, in the comments, let us know your favorite goals from the old White Hart Lane, but specifically they have to be from when the high camera angle was being used.
Exactly.
And if you're too young to remember that, you have to go to YouTube and dig it out. Dig out some good goals for us. Okay. We've done 15 minutes on history. Let's give the young people some love as well. So here we are, Friday the 14th of November. Spurs sitting what you'd think from the outside looking pretty, relatively pretty and kind of 5th in the league and unbeaten in the Champions League. How do you feel? Like, I'm going to ask you straight away just a couple of questions about Thomas Frank. What's your kind of favorite thing about Thomas Frank, having kind of had him for about 15, 16 games now in total?
It's been that many. Wow. I guess we've been 3 a week, right? More or less.
I thought you were going to say it's felt like it's been a lot more.
No, I'm behind him. I mean, first thing, when it became pretty clear that Ange was out of time, I actually started to think about next steps, because the easy part is getting rid of him. Who Frank definitely came to mind as an option. A couple of reasons. He's a grown up, and I think that's my first response to your question. It was the first thing that popped into my head, is he's a grown up, and he's already demonstrated that 2 or 3 times. The obvious one being he was spectacularly let down in the summer with the pursuit of the number 10. Yeah, Mr. Marinakis. Yeah, Eze having the message from God that he had to give Arteta vocal. These are just excuses, right? We didn't close, right? Glenn Ross stuff. We didn't close, right? And he's dealt with that like a grown-up. He's got fully behind the Javi experiment, which is going to be an experiment, because any 10 built like that with only relevant experience playing in leagues that you cannot directly compare to the physicality of this league, it's something of a risk. But he's fully behind that. He's fully behind all of it. So that was the first sign of, grown up Thomas Frank. Second sign, I think, and it's so easily forgotten, even by Spurs fans, is the setback of that Paris Saint-Germain thing, and how he very quickly turned it around, stabilized the players, and we started off with impressive performances. Maybe our 2 most impressive, Burnley and Man City. I felt after that Paris Saint-Germain loss and the way we lost it, I felt like so much could potentially be undone. Right? It was like Spurs, he was back in full so soon after we'd eradicated. But he settled that. A very recent example of Thomas Frank grown up is the Van der Ven and Spence situation. In different hands, that thing gets escalated into a whole other drama, and that would have had something to do with the manager's ego. So if you look back at the last 2 Spurs managers, Ange and Conte, I think you see a very, very different handling of that situation. And not only would you have seen that different handling of it, I think you would have had a double standard, because Mickey van der Ven standing in the dressing room at the club is greater than Jed Spence's.
Yes.
And I suspect that the way it would have been dealt with would have been heavy-handed and somewhat unfair. So he's handled this like a grown-up. He sat with it for a couple of days. In that period of time, the players took it upon themselves to go speak to him. And then you've seen the response since and performance from Mickey van der Ven mainly, Yeah. So, yeah, I like that about Thomas Frank. This thing about the tactical flexibility, I need to give it a little bit longer to truly be kind of on board with that. We saw examples. The way he set up against Paris Saint-Germain is very different to the way he set up in other games we've seen this season. We know for sure that at Brentford, he went through a sort of foundation building spell, and then bit by bit was adding, more and more ingredients to the mix. And by the end, they were a free scoring team, a front foot team, and he's going to have greater resource to do that at Spurs and do that quicker. So there's a lot to like about Thomas Frank. You're probably going to ask me, maybe some reservations too for balance.
Sure, go for it. Well, before I do, can I just ask devil's advocate, just in case there are people shouting? Was what happened against Paris Saint-Germain his fault? In terms of the last 15 minutes?
Not his fault necessarily, but I think we say last 15 minutes, it's the last 5 minutes. I mean, we were 2-0 up with 5 minutes to go. There is a way to set up a team in that situation, which is kind of primitive, but tends to get the job done. Think back to those kind of old Beano comics where they're literally standing on each other's, shoulders on the goal line. Now, I'm not asking for that, but I'm asking for a middle ground between that and business as usual. We're 2-0 up against a team that will keep going, a team that's they believe in their system. They're going to pass us to death until they get those goals. And it's literally how they got both goals. For me,
so I just interrupt, sorry. But for me, there's just an element of, and we saw this again against Manchester United, and I spoke about it in a video earlier this week, but I'm interested to hear whether you remember this or agree. But I really remember when Martin Jol started turning Spurs around. And early on in that kind of turnaround, there were occasions where we were winning into the last few minutes of games, and then we'd concede late. And Martin Jol would come out semi-regularly and just be like, we've got to learn how to play out games. And for me, a lot of that is about being cool under pressure, keeping the ball, trying to find your way into the corners. And then also a little bit, and I hate to say it, this is what Woolwich are brilliant at the moment, shithousing your way to it, throwing yourself to the ground, finding a way to break up the rhythm of the game. And I guess for me, when I talked about the last 15 minutes, and you're right to say the last 5 minutes, more about that, there was kind of what seemed to be a little bit of a lack of maturity, a little bit of a lack of leadership. And it's totally understandable and fair that won't be there straight away in a new manager's tenure. But I'm just hoping that he's going to push that into the players rather than it just be bring on another defender, sit on your 6-yard line and call it on.
I generally agree with that. I think there's a difference in what you're able to do in your first competitive match.
Yes, totally.
And 2-3 seasons down the line. 2-3 seasons down the line, there is a preferred way to play through those situations. At that point, it did have to be a bit Ange final against Manchester United. It had to be a bit like that. But my point wasn't to lay the blame on him. It was more he showed just how, emotionally intelligent and balanced and mature he is in the way that he was able to lift those players and get them back with clear minds and perfectly able to win 2 tricky first matches of the season.
He's a modern communicator, isn't he? He's a communicator you can tell can deal with younger players.
Yeah, exactly that.
And Ange and even worse, Conte definitely couldn't. But I liked how you talk about being a grown up, because although Ange, is a much older man and has experienced a lot more things, there were just clearly times where he couldn't stop the child inside him from reacting. First thing that comes to mind, of course, the cupping of the ear.
Well, there are many things that come to mind there. I'll quickly run through all of them. Bang, bang, bang. And then we'll get back to present day. My expectations with Ange were really high after the first few games. Forget the first 10. We know what happened after 10. For me, it was after 2. And I don't even mean 2 competitive, 2 pre-season. The way he got us looking in those first 2 pre-season matches, I was just blown away.
I agree. I remember the West Ham one because I was working at West Ham at the time. I'm afraid to say, sorry guys, but I was making content for West Ham, and I was in the office at West Ham watching that game, and we absolutely we lost, but we dominated.
We had 32 shots and 80% possession.
And all the West Ham fans who were working there were like, "Oh God, you look good."
Yeah, and I thought, wow, you've been able to get your football idea across to these players, and to pivot from back to back. Jose, Nuno, Conte. That's like muscle memory. You need to unlearn so much, and he got them front foot in one game. By the time we destroyed Shakhtar Donetsk and Kane got 4, I was ready. I was thinking we're going to do a Leicester this season, right? And a lot of that was because he was so emotionally mature. That's what came across to me in the interviews. He was saying the right things, preaching the right philosophies. I went, right, you're the oldest manager in the league and we're in safe hands here. You really are grown up. Problem is, they say that you don't really know somebody unless they're, drunk or angry. That's when you get the kind of the real person. I just think the minute things got to a point where people questioned his capability in the job, his response was very petulant. That's a general comment. We can give specifics. We know that he was very much an advocate of praise publicly, criticize privately, until Timo Werner decided to play a couple of bad games, and he was terrible in his criticism of Timo Werner. That was very public. The way he dealt with that situation with the Arsenal game, with the Man City game, I felt was needlessly kind of unsubtle. I kept asking myself this question. If he was Celtic's manager, and Celtic were playing Partick Thistle, and if Celtic win that match, Rangers win the league, and everybody's asking him questions about how Celtic were going to play it, out of respect or fear of that rivalry, he would never have said the things he said about the Spurs.
Surely.
Impossible. So it felt disrespectful. It felt like a lack of awareness for him to be so kind of combative over this point. And then we saw it in full swing last season when his capabilities were being questioned constantly, and the way he went about defending himself, we could see the injury crisis was as bad as we've ever seen. There was a way, though, that you could have, mitigated some of that, referred back to some kind of contingency plan on the pitch so that it wasn't like the level of humiliation that we had to suffer in the league. And we are a Mickey van der Ven failed clearance away on the line from the worst season in our club's history, certainly in my time,
Yeah, totally. Listen, it's a weird situation with Ange, isn't it? Because he brought us the best night, but like you said, he also brought us the worst season. He'll forever be welcome for me. What I would love the club to do, and obviously Vinay Venkatesham is pretty smart with the communication level. He's trying to bring the fans and the club closer. They should do a game where they bring Sonny and Ange onto the pitch together. I think now that Ange isn't Forest manager, I think that is something that could potentially happen. Him taking the Forest job, I think, was another example of pure ego.
Exactly.
I was thinking that he could do that. Yeah, go on.
Literally just about to say the same thing. It was my last bit of the Ange kind of ego project, which is, if there's one job you don't take, it's that one. If you're lucidly minded, you don't take that job, because Nuno's level of overachievement there, I don't think could be matched by anybody. I think if you gave Pep that job for one season, he doesn't get them to finish in that league position. And it was purely an emotional reaction, seeing how Spurs have started the season so well, Frank Flavour of the Month. I remember one interview last year where, I can't remember against who, but Ange saying, this is such a great squad, and I just really, really hope that I don't want somebody else to come in here and get the most out of these players. Like, this is essentially saying, this is my squad. I want to be given the opportunity to manage a fully fit version of this. And that stuck with me when he took the Forest job. It was such a impulse reaction to Spurs having a great start to the season, this opportunity presenting himself, him seeing the possibility to embarrass us, to uplift his own reputation again. COYS, don't take that job. Don't take any job for 1 year. Your currency will only grow from that. Come back in a year's time and slowly go about the business of proving everybody wrong.
Yeah.
It was all ego.
No, completely. And for me, he needed to wait and then take a job again at the top of the top couple of clubs in a league where only a couple of clubs win it. So I think he easily could have got an Ajax, he could have got a PSV or a Benfica or a Sporting Lisbon. He could have got his reputation back to where it was, and then have another pop at a club in the Premier League where you've got a shot at it, because then people will only remember the the Europa League, and you've won titles again since then.
Exactly.
And now I think, do you know what? Now I don't know where he comes back in, certainly in English football. I think he'd probably have to take like a top level championship club in English football to get back in. I couldn't see him coming anywhere else. Anyway, before we just have a little halftime break with my sponsor, I just want to then ask you said about some reservations about Thomas Frank. Go for it.
Yeah, I guess for a while I've wanted on the ball system manager, somebody who can kind of finally calibrate a team on the ball. I almost feel like Spurs have never had that manager. A lot of people would say we did with Poch, and some would even stretch it and say we did with AVB, albeit a defensive version of that. But we high in possession, that team. I disagree. I disagree on both, and I disagree on more obvious ones like Harry.
So maybe describe to me exactly what you mean by an on-the-ball system manager. I'm not really much of a tactico.
Sure. Somebody who pretty much guarantees that you control a game through possession and you're threatening with it. Like, anybody can keep the ball and not look particularly dangerous. But those who seize it and say, look, 70% of this ball is ours, pretty much against anybody, and we are also going to look dangerous doing it. The reason I say that Pochettino is a borderline that is because our 86-point season, he really was that. I don't think it's to do with the manager, though. I think we've been lucky at Spurs in the last sort of 10, 15 years that we had the two ultimate cheat code, press-proof midfield players who created the impression that we were a finely calibrated on the ball team.
Harry
Luka
Winks and Oliver Skip, yeah, that's who you're going to say.
Oliver Skip, Harry Winks, clearly, but Luka Modric, Moussa Dembele give you that in a way that no other midfield player in my time as a Spurs fan has been able to for our club. And I don't even see many examples of midfielders who could do that for in Liverpool's recent history, in United's recent history. You know, Arsenal still don't have that player. Somebody who is that press resistant that you can give them the clumsiest ball with their back to goal, high press of 2 attacking players for the other team. They'll roll their way out of it.
Yeah.
And you're still in possession. Modric's is a miracle if you look at the body type. Dembele is a miracle considering he started his career very much as a striker. Yeah. So those two guys, honestly, if you look at Spurs under Pochettino, before Dembele, after Dembele, it's a huge contrast in the way we controlled football matches. What often blurs the lines of that is that Spurs got to a Champions League final without Dembele.
Yes.
But you remember the performances. We were brilliant against Dortmund. That's because Jan Vertonghen decided to play the most inspired game of his entire life. He was ridiculous.
He played from left wing back that night, didn't he?
Left wing back, goal, assist, and ran the game from left wing back. That sealed it. We were 3-0 up in the first leg. We were never going to go out. Quarterfinals against Man City. You know what that was like in the second leg. It was such a basketball match. Anything could have happened.
The first leg, I think, was all about the new stadium. It was I was there. The atmosphere was unlike anything I've ever heard at a football match, and we basically willed that result. And they still missed the pen. You know,
still missed the pen.
Vigo saved the pen. Yeah.
Yep. And then second leg, you know, we were that VAR decision away from yet another Spursy moment. Yeah. Semi-finals. You know, it's the greatest. It's the greatest day of my Spurs. It beats the. So this is always my trophy argument. Yes, trophies. I'm in it for that.
Yeah.
No Spurs fan, being truly honest, felt a greater kind of level of elation when the final whistle went against United in the final versus the final whistle going against Ajax.
Yes, I cried instinctively at the Mora goal, I think. And then I cried a little bit less and a little later, I think, after winning the final against United. I think you're right. I think you're right.
I mean, I follow NBA basketball roughly on the same level I follow football. Not quite because of the hours, you know.
Who's your team?
Hours. But sorry?
Who's your team?
I don't have a team, and I think that's probably why that's probably why football's still quite a big pull, because I clearly have a team in football.
How good's this kid Wembanyama?
Oh, I love Wemby, man. He's just also.
How do you actually say his name? I can't get rid of how close it is to Victor Wanyama, but it's
Wembanyama. Yeah, you're right. It's pretty close. So I mean,
if you haven't checked him out, I don't follow basketball that much, but I've seen clips of this kid, and he looks like a complete cheat code. It's mental.
He's like 7'6" now. I think he's grown 2 more inches in the last year. 7'6" with handles, with a pull-up jumper. Like, he can do everything, right? Incredible. But anyway, the point with the NBA is, if you follow NBA basketball and then you follow football side by side, sometimes in a really unconscious way, your relationship with the clock can flip. So with football, the clock is always approximate. You look at it as a rough guideline to where we are in the match. With basketball, the clock tells you exactly where you are.
Yeah. When
the injury time went up, Ajax, I remember thinking, oh, wow, we really don't have much time to get this. And after the equalizer, I thought we had loads of time. We got the equalizer with lots of time, and suddenly that clock was expiring. So I always remember looking at that clock and thinking, you know, we really don't have much time. They had a chance at one end. We go up the other end. Have a look at the clock now that I've mentioned this. They put up whatever it was, 5-6 minutes. When that ball leaves Lucas Moura's foot, which would be the legal point of departure of release in an NBA game,
right?
It is 1 second left of the official injury time. Yeah. So the referee was good for it. He only added another, I think, 30 seconds, which would have been what you add for the goal. So when it went in, I had that extra level of like elation because I felt we'd beaten the shot clock by. Yeah,
so it was the Michael Jordan.
It was the Michael Jordan against Cleveland.
Yeah.
Went in, I was like, what? words, honestly.
Where were you?
Nothing. The pub I met you.
Right, yeah, in Hackney.
Many years later, same
Yeah,
pub.
so I was in Amsterdam, but I didn't get a ticket, so I was in the pub in Amsterdam Square, and yeah, it was just absolutely wild. I think the reason it was so wild and instinctively made me cry is just because it doesn't in my Spurs supporting life, it doesn't happen to Spurs like that. And then you know, just to take this on a little bit more, yes, that was the best moment in my life, but the next 2 to 3 weeks were the best time of my life, because it was like 3 weeks where you're like, we might do this, and Arsenal fans would have to shut up for fucking forever. And then I was in Madrid for the final and enjoyed that final for 22 seconds. I was in the ground, 20 fucking seconds. And then as soon as it hits his arm, you're like, oh no, of course, we're not allowed good things. We're not allowed.
Well, my story is almost exactly that, with a slight twist. So the year before, in October, November, I had an aneurysm, subarachnoid hemorrhage. I think 4 out of 5 people don't survive that. I was in critical care, came out.
Is that in your brain?
In my brain. Yeah. It's a brain stroke, right? Mm-hmm. So you look for reasons, the reasons you survived. Why did I survive? Why was I spared? So you can imagine, with all this last minute Man City stuff, last second Ajax thing, that feeling of, so this is why I've suffered and this is why I was spared. Like you, I went to Madrid. I didn't go to the stadium, but I went there to be a part of it and watch it in a pub. Turn up at that pub, realize that pub kind of cares about the match, but not enough. Right. So there was no volume.
Yeah.
I sit down, realizing, so I'm about to watch the biggest game we've played in our history, and I'm not going to hear it.
Yeah.
I didn't need to hear it to feel that thing that you felt after like 30 seconds, whatever it was. Just like, yeah, good things are not meant to happen. If I was spared, it wasn't for this. And then the rest is the rest. You know?
But what could we genuinely, I mean, frankly, no wonder you felt some kind of like heavenly pull almost when we got to a Champions League final, and starting in midfield was Moussa Sissoko and Harry Winks.
Moussa Sissoko and Harry. Also, I think the first sign that I thought, maybe not for us, or maybe the Spursy thing will carry on beyond today, was realizing that if we do win it, we're going to win it in that kit. my least favorite Spurs kit ever.
It was a rubbish kit. Yeah, the weird slight bit of blue coming up from the bottom of it. Yeah.
It was the worst. We can't win it in that.
All right, before I move on to some more questions, we're just going to hear a word from our sponsor. 1 second. Get yourself to okjersey.com, where you can buy the best football shirts around, including this one I'm wearing now, and of course, the absolutely magnificent Black Spurs away shirt. And as if that wasn't enough, if you go onto their website and like the look of one of the shirts there, choose your size, pick the Champions League badge for the sleeve as well if you're that way inclined, then go to checkout and type the code BARN into the coupon section. That's BARN as in short for Barnaby. And when you do, you'll get a whopping 8% off your purchase. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 8% means if you've spent, say, and let's face it, I'm being optimistic here, 100 quid, then you get £8 off, not to be sniffed at. Get yourself to okjersey.com to pick one up, or if you're too lazy to type in the website, just scan the QR code that's on the left of me throughout this video. Enjoy. Okay, George, I'm going to go into the boardroom now and ask you about the Lewis family, Vinay Venkatesham. First question I'm going to ask is, put yourself in Vinay Venkatesham's shoes. You have £100 million to spend, and we're going to say that the Lewis family are going to loosen some of the wage purse strings. You've got about 200 grand a week to spend as well on one player who could realistically come to the club this January. Who would that player be and why?
Man, I've been giving this a bit of thought since the money thing came up, that we might have some funds for January. I mean, we have
let me just say one more thing as well, because I feel like it's worth asking this question as well at the same time, which is, what is your instinct on how this, change of policy of the Lewis family is going to manifest itself in January? Do you think, because a lot of people I speak to, and I kind of agree, feel like they have to show something different. Otherwise, at the end of January, I can't see how there won't be protests again. So how do you think it will actually manifest itself?
But we've been saying for years, it has to be this, it has to be that. We tried to buy Sergio Aguero on the last day of the transfer window. It doesn't come off. So you assume that on the first day of the next window, we're going to do something of equal standing. We never do, right? This is the story of the Tottenham, as they say. I'm not expecting some kind of show to the fans that this is a new day, unless of course we genuinely believe that's the move to make and it sits right with everybody. Personally, I actually think the thing that would excite me more than anything else is if they rewarded one or two, and the one or two should be the two centre backs, with new contracts on a scale that tells me that we're about to do something different with the wages. Because that's ultimately it. We can go out and buy somebody for 60, 70 million, put them on roughly the same sort of wages we've always paid, and that doesn't give me any indication of what we're going to be going forward.
Do you not think there's a chance that that's what they did to persuade Romero to stay in the first place? Kind of, tell his people underhand, listen, things are going to be changing in the boardroom. We're going to give you 200 grand a week. It's the most we've ever paid a centre back, and you can be captain, etc.
I think it's another level. We've often topped up people's contracts. We've had a history of doing this in the last 10 years, of literally topping up a contract 6 months later. Yeah, I think those two as a pair, we sit them down and we go, priority A is that the two of you are really high earners. You are our captain and vice captain or whatever for the next however many years.
5 years.
That's how we're going to do it. And I feel like that will set a level. If you're paying centre backs at that level, it's very plausible that you're paying wingers and forwards of similar level. If you want a signing that I think we can get that would be a pretty serious show, I've got to say, I like these tandems when there is a clear connection, but there is a sort of thread linking your signings. It seems like we're similar generations, so you know all about the Hullet, Van Basten, Rijkaard, and the Bremer, Klinsmann, Mateus, and I've just liked the look of Kudus Semenyo for a while. I like the idea of the two Ghanaian players, left wing, right wing, fairly interchangeable, both with number 10 potential as well. Ghana have not qualified for the African nations, so you have that benefit of both of them playing the rest of this season. Bournemouth are a selling club. They proved that in the last year, selling 3 of their starting back 4. Yeah. They will sell Semenyo if the money's right. He is the right fit. He has the attributes I'm looking for that left-sider. I want somebody who has that same one-on-one threat that Kudus has, so that we create a clear mismatch problem for our opposition. I want somebody with quick release shot off left or right. He has that in a way that Kudus does not. I want somebody who is at that age that we can rightly say they're peak level, top of their game. He's that age. He and Kudus are
he's physical, big physical guy as well.
Physical guy.
I think he's a perfect example of, for me, where if they did want to make a statement, they go like, I think they have to go, we'll give you 90 million for him. They have to go like that. We're going to smash our record by 20 million. We're going to give you 90 million for him. And at the same time, not only do we get a player who goes straight into the team, answers all of the things you've just said, but also it shows our fans, we're going to do this differently. We're in it properly. This is the difference between old Joe, pardoned by Donald Trump, the previous owner. We're his children. We're going to do it a different way. But he apparently is an Arsenal fan. Liverpool are heavily interested in him. But for me, I don't think those clubs, after the signings they made in the summer, can afford to go to 90 million. So I think there's and maybe maybe 80 would do it. I don't know. But what I'm saying is they have to blow the other clubs out of the water for the first time, in the way where you earlier were rightly alluding to with Eze. We could have still blown Arsenal out the water. Like, imagine, on that day after Eze calls up Mikel Arteta, if Daniel Levy had gone, oh, well, I'm going to have my nose rubbed in the shit here. So I'm going to bid, what was the release clause? 56. I'm going to bid 60. I'm going to bid 70 million. And then they have to go back to Arsenal and go, well, we've got an offer of 70 million.
Yeah. And the same for Gibbs White. And the same for Gibbs White. If we weren't talking about release clauses and all of this thing, when he was buying that
Marinakis is a scary criminal, though. That's the main difference.
he's a frightening criminal, but
Yeah.
frightening criminals like money. I think we could have given him a bag enough to just hand the man over, right? This is what needs to happen with our first major signing. If we, in this Vinay, era, if we can get Semenyo, and I think we can for that kind of money, that's the guy. If we can't, the next best thing will not be to drop to that Javi Simmons untried Premier League, especially in the middle of the season with no preseason. It would be to put down that serious money on those centre backs, secure them, and send a very clear message to the fans that come summer, these are the kind of wages we're operating with now. Yeah. But as far as signings, him. I think also Ivan Toney. I know a lot of people are anti the Ivan Toney thing. I don't know why. I guess it's something to do with the betting stuff. It's something to do with this perception that he might be a little bit arrogant. It's something to do with us already having Solanke and him feeling like he's not just roughly on Solanke's level, but a similar type of forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get a bit more out of him. First of all, you get availability. Solanke is not available and hasn't been available much, right?
We miss him chronically.
We miss him loads.
Yeah,
we miss him loads. Second, I think we've got to be a little bit ahead of the curve here. It's clear that this kind of new appetite for set pieces again with the long throws and the corners, that's not going away. That's accelerating. It's a matter of time before you start seeing big clubs play with front twos again.
Yeah.
The Sheringham Armstrong thing, the Ferdinand Shearer thing at Newcastle. And I think Solanke, Toney, two guys who can both play with their back to goal, two guys who can both spin. I think it could be an interesting option against certain teams, Yeah. Always remember that 9-1 against Wigan, just looking at the team we had on paper that day and went, that's where Harry's at his best. It's like, don't complicate it. If you do this, Crouchy, Defoe, Lennon on one wing, you're just going to murder these teams.
Yeah.
And everything felt like a maths puzzle under Ramos or AVB. And there's a simplicity there, which I think Frank has elements of. And I think Ivan Toney would be potentially a good fit for that.
Yeah, and just to go back to what you said about Semenyo, for me, I'm really enjoying the chemistry that's starting to build between Udogie and Odebear and Simons. For me, Odebear's ability to grow as a player as he ages would be increased if he had a Semenyo there to rotate with. I think I really like Odebear in that position, and but also I'm not one of these people, and I take the Toney and Solanke thing with this about similarly as well. I'm not one of these people who's just like, well, if we buy him, where's he going to play? No, you have to have two brilliant players at least in every position, like especially with the amount of games you're playing. So it's not a first team, it's not a first 11 game anymore, and we've got to win these players.
Also, we're Spurs. We're Spurs. Anything that can go wrong probably will.
Yes,
to have the contingencies, have the second striker, have the third striker, whatever you can get away
Harry
with.
Redknapp, as you talked about him, had 4 all the time.
Get 4.
Yeah.
Please. So I there would be the sort of players, that's what we're missing. And sometimes it's all it takes. You look at this team now, it feels like we're some way off Arsenal. It feels like we're some way off Liverpool when they're at their best, and it feels like we're a little way off City right now, this minute. But you know what? Sometimes it's that Cantona at Leeds piece, it's that piece, And I'm not saying that Semenyo has absolutely that potential, but people had a certain view of Mo Salah when, he initially went on loan at Fiorentina. I remember him destroying Spurs in a Europa League match when it was on loan there, and then Roma that season after, and they were wrong. Their ceiling for him was not the real ceiling. He had a whole other ceiling. I think there's something about Antoine Semenyo right now, and I felt the same about Mbeumo too. Something about those guys that I thought your ceiling is much higher than people think.
Yeah,
we're going to regret not getting Brian Mbeumo, and I think we will regret not getting Semenyo.
Okay, just a couple more questions, mate. I've loved this chat. So good. Spurs have hedged their bets on buying like youth players over the last few years, younger players who they hope will become world class at the club and then maybe have a sell on value, akin to when we bought Gareth Bale, for instance, Luka Modric as well.
Yeah.
Out of those young players, the likes of Bergvall, the likes of Gray,
Yeah.
who do you think has the best chance of really fulfilling their potential at the club? Who are you most excited by out of those younger players we've bought?
A fair few of them, actually, and more with each passing month. Probably the one I was the least excited about after last season was the one that most Spurs fans seem to be excited about, which is Archie Gray. He's grown on me more seeing him in midfield cameos this season. And now I'm starting to get it more with him. I see a kind of, don't want to say the name, but I'm starting to see that Declan Rice potential in him, in his skill set. Lucas Bergvall is going to be incredible. Lucas Bergvall, people forget just how young, and for that style of midfield player, they don't reach their peak for some years. You know, that will come when he's 24, 25, 26. That's years off. He's way ahead of where I thought he would be at this point. He excites me a lot, and he could be that press-resistant cheat code midfielder once he develops more awareness of what's around him.
Yeah.
He has the skill set to receive from the centre-backs, turn and initiate positive actions going forward. He just needs to build his body a bit more and just build his football awareness a little bit more.
And we need to get better players around him as well.
Yeah, that too. Vuskovic, I mean, wow.
His numbers at the moment are off the charts, aren't they?
And also, again, body type. Like, he's already got that grown man body. He looks ready to play in big leagues. The Bundesliga might not be the most elite league, but it's reasonably physical. It's a lot more physical than some. He's handling that business. Trust me, he's looking just fine. I'm making a point of watching their matches, and he's looking great. He excites me a lot. He excites a lot of fans of Croatian football who already think he has Gvardiol level potential now, you know? So
do you know what? Just because I thought about it, this could answer two of the things we discussed. He could bring him back next year and play a 3-5-2. He could play, and he could bring in Tony. He could play Tony and Solanke or someone similar, and then play three at the back. And that would, I think, I mean, also talk about how good Pedro Porro was as a wing back at Sporting Lisbon, and Udogie is clearly a wing back anyway. I don't know. We could bring back the old Glenn Hoddle 3-5-2.
We could bring it back. Pedro Porro needs to stop turning the ball over, man. As they say in basketball, he needs to get out of the bakery business. Too many turnovers, this guy.
I think a lot of our players are trying too many paradise balls when they're on the ball. It's like, and refusing to just play at 5 yards. It's fucking me off.
Way too many. I like Porro. He's a great energy to have around the club and on the pitch, but honestly, it's very difficult to build that thing I was talking about before, being a team that takes care of the football and does it at tempo when Porro is doing that. It's actually one of my biggest kind of, just such a welcome surprise. I've always been a Romero fan, but I didn't really buy into that Romero on the ball stuff. This season, my goodness, he has clearly been working on his short and medium passing game. He was always good for the raking long one. That assist for Bergvall the other day, he could have done that last season or the year before. But his ability to kind of prompt from the back with seemingly knowing the pass after the one he's just played is really impressive. Yeah. That's taking him on to another level as a centre-back now. So anyway, just thought I'd bring that in.
Fantastic. Okay, and the final question, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. Where do you think Tottenham are going to finish in each of the competitions they're still in? So Premier League, Champions League, and FA Cup.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think success in one would probably impact on the other, albeit not on the Ange level. I don't think winning the FA Cup means we finish 17th. I think you're going to see no worse than top 8. More realistically, I can see us finishing 6th, maybe 5th in the league this year.
Okay.
I'll start to lower those expectations if it looks like we're going to win the FA Cup, right? I think 8th might then be the ceiling if we win the FA Cup. We're not going to win the Champions League, but we are going to get out of the group, and we might be good for progression, 1 round, maybe 2. The problem is with this new format of the Champions League, you have no idea who you're going to play in the next round.
No.
I remember seeing Aston Villa play Club Brugge last year in the group, and then the draw was made. They played each other in the first round. So I don't know. We could end up playing Paris Saint-Germain in the first round of the knockouts, right? Just as we're about to play them in the group. So I'll go on instinct, and I think instinctively we've probably got a last 16, last 8 tops level performance there.
I think we could make it very difficult for someone good if we draw them over 2 legs with the way that Frank sets us up.
Yeah, I mean, Joao Palhinha, Van der Ven, Romero, that triangle there is set to frustrate even the best teams.
Yeah,
that can hurt teams, and the counter-attacking potential. We haven't talked about, the whole sort of Kudus, Odebear, even Tell options in a counter-attacking situation. It makes me feel that the better the opposition, the more likely we are actually to get that sting of a result. It's not surprising for me that our best results have been away from home against top-level teams. This squad, as it's presently built, is really set up for that in a way that they're not to break down anything like a low block.
Yeah. George, listen, thanks so much for coming on the show. Once again, let the audience know where they can find your work.
Have a look at George Nelson Photography, and you'll see all sorts of things, different projects. Like I said, mainly around music, but there'll be bits of football in there too.
And where can we find that Italian football stuff you were talking about?
See whether there's still any issues left, but go onto the website in the merch section, and I'll have a look to see if I've still got 1 or 2 copies. You can definitely get copies of the kind of London jazz scene book called Scenes that came out in 2020. And I run an event called Moments Notice, which is quite a big event on the improv scene where I invite 5 musicians who have never improvised together before, and they do it in front of a big audience. Big names have played it. Have a look. You'll see for yourself.
Fantastic, guys. Make sure you check all that out. George, honestly, I've really enjoyed this chat. I'm going to get you on far more. Really fantastic. Make sure you guys at home give this video a like. If you're on YouTube, do subscribe to the channel for daily Tottenham news. And as we get ever closer, just a month and a half to the transfer window, hopefully we will see what the club are going to do, what Vinay Venkatesham is going to do. And if he can get Semenyo over the line, that would be, I think, great for not only all of us as fans, but for Vinay's career at Tottenham as well. I'll be bringing you more Tottenham transfer news as we get closer to that window. But as we record on Friday, I'm sure this will go out next week a little bit, but try and enjoy the end of the international break before, of course, the North London derby next Sunday. Come on, you Spurs. Get yourself to okjersey.com, where you can buy the best football shirts around, including this one I'm wearing now, and of course, the absolutely magnificent black Spurs away shirt. And as if that wasn't enough, if you go onto their website and like the look of one of the shirts there, choose your size, pick the Champions League badge for the sleeve as well if you're that way inclined, then go to checkout and type the code BARN into the coupon section. That's BARN as in short for Barnaby. And when you do, you'll get a whopping 8% off your purchase. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 8% means if you've spent, say, and let's face it, I'm being optimistic here, 100 quid, then you get £8 off, not to be sniffed at. Get yourself to okjersey.com to pick one up, or if you're too lazy to type in the website, just scan the QR code that's on the left of me throughout this video.